You know how to pick them. I gotta say, this particular psalm has been so important in my life. I've read it all the time when I'm feeling low and feeling everything. If you ever know how to pray, go to the Psalms, and you can just pray through the Psalms. This one in particular is good today in light of yesterday. I'm having a real struggle with that. It's Psalm 13. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me.
Thank you. I just picked it because it was short. Morning, everyone. This is a good psalm. This is part of our series, 15 Texts from the Bible, and we are on number, I think it's like 5 or something. I've lost count. I haven't been keeping count. No, I'm not even sure where my car is today, so that's just the way I am. But the 15 texts, the Psalm 13 is a psalm. A quick show of hands, how many here have ever felt, and just honestly, even for a moment, that God wasn't answering them when they called for God? It's something I think we all share in common, and congratulations if you rose your hand on that, because you share something in common with King David. This is a psalm that is attributed to him. What he was going through at this time, we do not know, and I love that because it could be anything. And the one thing about the Psalms, like you said, the perfect thing about them is that if you're feeling it, you can go to the Psalms and you can find it. And this is one where they, feel like have basically saying, "Where are you, God?" It reminds me of my first day of kindergarten. When I was in kindergarten, we went. There was this old school, and it was this building that was just old and everything like that. And my mom took me, and she let me, into the room and everything. She's talking to the teacher. I look, and there's a group of kids. They're all like, small bodies, big giant heads. Just weird-looking kids. And before I knew it, when I turned around, my mom was gone. And they did that, because they didn't want to do it dramatically or anything like that. But for a moment there, I just felt like I was all alone with these ugly kids. But as time went on, I got to know the people in the class, and everything turned out okay. I managed to fail academics for my life after that, so it was really, really hip. But it also reminds me of my first venture into ministry. When you become a pastor, when I became a pastor, I was like so gung-ho. I was like, I'm going to go save the world, and all this kind of stuff. And you want to get a hat that says pastor on it, and you're just all gung and you're just full of vinegar and all that kind of stuff and the things that come with the vinegar. And you're just all excited and everything like that. And you think you're going to go meet other pastors, and you're going to meet, just like everyone's going to look like and act like Fred Rogers, and they're going to be cool and everything. You're going to stand and sing Kumbaya and all this kind of stuff. You're going to go sing the world. Nothing like that at all for me. This first time I started, I was called by the district superintendent, and he said, what we want to do is we want to have you be a associate pastor at this one church, and also we want to put you in charge of campus ministry. And I thought, I don't know anything about campus ministry. I don't even know exactly what an associate pastor does. And they said, oh, you'll figure it out. And so I thought, okay, and I said, what is campus ministry a thing? Is it something that we've been doing a lot? And he said, well, no, actually, we've kind of let it die down, and we just need you to revive it a little bit like that. And I thought, oh, well, you obviously know how to ask an expert, because I have, I don't know campus ministry, and frankly, college kids scare me. So it's just, but there I was, and when you get assigned to things, before you start, Usually pastors begin their assignments in July. Usually it's July 1st. And so we had an annual conference before that. I think it was in June. And I'm sitting over here, and over there I see the head pastor of this church that I'm supposed to be the associate pastor for. He's this really big guy. You know, he was an ex-football player, so he's a big, big guy. And so I just walk over there, you know, and I sit down beside him, you know, and I'm still thinking that, you know, pastors are all fun and things like that. And I said, hey, I'm Trever. I met you a while back, but really excited about being part of the church, and you know, I'm just going to do my best and everything. You know, I had all the energy and everything like that, and he ignored me completely. He didn't even look at me, and I thought, sounds like my wife. But it's you know, it's easier when it's someone you know, because you think, okay, I've got to apologize about something. But when it's someone that you've never met, I said, is there anything that you need from me or anything like that? And I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting right here, and he's just staring straight ahead like this. And he's not even looking at me. I know he can hear me. It's you know, there's nothing else going on. And I thought, this is really awkward. And so I thought, okay. And, you know, sheepishly, I just got out of my chair and I went back to where I was sitting. And for the rest of the annual conference, I'm thinking, that was not Fred Rogers like. That was not, you know, this is not, you know, that was weird. It was so weird. I'm going to be working with this person. And for the first time, I said, you know, hey, God, is this where you want me to be? Because could you answer me if this is where you want me to be? Because it's off to a weird start. And so I went through the annual conference and everything like that, and then I started on July 1st, and we started with a meeting before then. And it was me, it was this head pastor, and it was another associate pastor. And before the meeting started, the other associate pastor that had just gotten hired as well, she stood up and she said, before we even get started, I want everybody here to know that I'm not all about that gay stuff. And I thought, well, this is a weird way to start a meeting. You know, this is just not normally we start with prayer. I thought we'd start with prayer, you know. But no, I guess we're just going to go right to that. And so the rest of the meeting just went that weird and that awkward. And during that meeting, the pastor, the head pastor, looked at me and he said, you need to start campus ministry. I said, I'm glad that you are speaking to me, because I don't know what campus ministry is or he said, you can have it in the basement. It's going to be like Wednesday nights. Just, you need to revive it. And I said, I don't really know how to do that. And he said, you'll figure it out. And so I'm thinking, I don't know this is not, you know, when I became a pastor, I thought it was going to be, you know, love and honor and, you know, the things like this. I was excited, but you're really, you know, taking the energy out of this. And that night I prayed and I thought, God, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm completely at a loss here. Can you please tell me if this is something that I'm supposed to be doing? And I heard nothing. Again, just nothing. That Sunday, I'm going to that church for the first time, and they're in the service, and the pastor there is dressed in his robe and everything like that, and it's an old church, and so up in the balcony is the computer, and he says, what your job is I want you to go up there and I want you to run my PowerPoint slides. And I said, what is PowerPoint? I had never worked with it, I never did anything. And he said, you'll figure it out, just get up there. And this is the way he talked to me. I'm not kidding at all. This is the tone, everything. And so I went up there and I looked at the computer and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this. And I started getting really nervous, you know. And so I'm sitting up there and people start coming in, and as people start coming in, I'm waving at him and I'm saying, there's nothing on the screen. I don't know how to do this. And he said, you'll figure it out, like that. And so during this, he starts the service and everything, and during the songs, the lyrics are supposed to be up there, but I'm looking and I'm pushing buttons, nothing is coming up on the screen. And he gets up and he says, "We need the slides." And everybody of the congregation looks at me. And I'm just there going, "Hey, I'm new here. I don't know what I'm doing," and it just felt awkward, and we never got the slides figured out. Somebody came up and started figuring it out, but I never figured it out. And that night again, I went home and I said, "Hey, this is not God, really. I had a job. I had a good job. I was doing good things. I was making a living and stuff. You're the one that put me into the ministry and all this kind of stuff. Are you serious? What am I doing here with this? The PowerPoint, I didn't know about PowerPoint. I don't know nothing about PowerPoint, and I don't know anything about campus ministry, and the pastor hates me, and the congregation just looks at me weird and all this kind of stuff. Why? What is this about? This isn't ministry, This was never, seen by, people just don't act like this and everything. And I got nothing, again, nothing. I don't know what I was asking for a sign of some sort, or yes or no. Nothing. I get absolutely nothing. And I get this call, and it's the pastor, and he says, "Wednesday, you need to start campus ministry this Wednesday." And this is like Sunday night. And he just says, "You need to make it grow." And I said, "But I have some questions." He said, "You'll figure it out." And he hung up. And so I'm thinking, I don't know, how do you do campus ministry? Aren't college kids honest? I hate people that are honest. So I thought, well, maybe I can create an event, maybe an event. He actually didn't say this Wednesday, he said the following Wednesday, so I had pretty much a week and a half. And at the time, the guy that's on the Voice, this Brian Olson guy that's from our local boy that went to the big city and made good? He was at the time in a band, and he was touring in this band. And so I thought, well, maybe I could get, Brian lives locally, maybe I could get Brian to come and talk to the college kids. So, maybe they could perform a little bit, and we could make an event out of it, a welcome back to school kind of thing. It's in the fall now. And so I call up his manager, and his manager quotes a price that is more expensive than my car. And I'm thinking, I don't even have anything. I have a basement, and it smells like old socks. I don't know what it is about churches. They all smell like old socks. But I said, I just have nothing. And the manager said, well, he's not going to play you songs for nothing. He can maybe come. I'll check with him if he wants to come and just talk to your students. And maybe we'll let him do that. And so I got an email that he was willing to do that. Now, as far as advertising or anything like that, I had no idea what to do with that either. We had a Facebook page for the church, but I was not allowed to be on it because they said campus ministry is housed in this church, but it's not part of this church, so you can't use it. So I made some flyers. I found a picture of Brian. I made some flyers, and I went to campus, and I just started hanging them up on walls, and things like that, hoping that somebody would show up and everything. And so I'm sitting there the night of in this dark, dingy basement, smelling like old socks, and Brian Olson comes in, and bless his heart, he came in with a guitar and an amplifier, and he said, my manager does things to protect me, financially and stuff and everything like that, but I get to make the decisions, and this is a worthwhile thing. I'll sing whatever you want. I'll play as long as you want. I'll talk about whatever you want. This is a worthwhile cause. I'm glad to be here. Couldn't have been nicer. And so we sat there and we had a kind of a conversation, and nobody else showed up. Not one person showed up. And and I'm embarrassed. I'm talking to him, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing and everything like that. And we had this very nice conversation. And about 45 minutes, he finally just went home. And he could have been better, couldn't have been more good-natured about it. But I felt embarrassed. I felt like I was lost. I went home again, and I said, God, hey, remember me? I've been trying to call you for a couple of days now. This is weird and all this kind of stuff. Am I supposed to be doing this? Because I'll tell you right now, I don't want to do this. This is ugly, and people are, and then after that evening, I get a call, and it's the pastor again. not God. And he yells at me. I mean, yells. I had to actually hold the phone like this. And it was angry, yelling. He was calling me names. He was saying that I'm not going to grow the campus ministry, that I failed, all of this kind of stuff, and just lays into me. And I hang up the phone, and I'm thinking, thanks a lot, God. That's not the call that I wanted, anything like this. So I'm feeling completely, my whole thing about, becoming a minister has not happened yet. I memorized the Lord's Prayer. I was ready to do, all the kind of stuff, and talk to people and everything like that. And so far I've been yelled at. I've been thrown into technical stuff of PowerPoint, which I know nothing about. Campus ministry, I know nothing about. I'm getting yelled at and looked at funny and all this kind of stuff. And it's just not happening. I'm not feeling anything about, I'm not feeling any niceness. I'm not feeling anything. I'm feeling completely alone. I'm feeling like a criminal, in this place. I'm feeling like a castaway. I'm feeling like I'm just totally lost, outsider of an inside group. And then the next day, I'm sitting in my office. I have this small office. It smells like a lot of old socks. And this person comes in that had been working for us part-time on some things. And she starts to share with me that the head pastor has been having extramarital affairs with members of the church. And she knows this because she's one of them. And I'm stunned. First I'm thinking, why am I the one that's hearing this? And then I'm thinking, I had a past that was similar to that, but I believe in the 100% turnaround because it happened to me. When I really, really accepted Christ in my life and everything, it did a turnaround, and that life is foreign to me now. When I heard her talking about it, it did not ring familiar to me. But I also I really felt for that congregation, because anybody can tell you, congregations where a pastor has done things like this, they are ruined for years. It's like a virus that does not heal. It goes on truly for generations. There are churches that have been around that years past they had a conference, because I was angry because this was a spiritual leader. This is the spiritual leader of the church. This is somebody that was assigned and people looked at for spiritual guidance, and he was taking advantage of people. He was taking advantage of his congregants, and he was taking advantage of people, and he was doing harm. And I felt a little helpless, but I also felt angry that this was happening. So I called my district superintendent, and I said, this is what I've been told. And they said, okay, I need you to come into the district office, which was also the conference office at that time. I need you to come into the conference office tomorrow. And so that night, again, I'm saying my prayers at night, and I'm thinking, hey, God, this isn't funny anymore, really. This is not, I'll learn PowerPoint if you want me to, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. And then I get a phone call, and it's the district superintendent, and he says, we want you to come in at this time, and because the bishop's going to be in town, and he wants to talk to you. And the bishop's like, I felt like I was going to be called into the principal's office, At that night, I picked out an outfit. And for the first time in my ministry, I wore a tie and a jacket, Tie was tight, the jacket was, it was choking, and I walked in there, and it was a small table, and they sat in front of me, and it looked like on the TV when you have the cops, that are interviewing the guy, Yeah, and I already felt like I was being interrogated, and I felt guilty, I just felt, And they asked me all these kind of things, and because they said that the problem was that this person had also been working for the conference. This person, one of their duties was to teach a class on boundaries. Yeah. So this was really serious stuff and really serious damage. And they told me that they had been able to look into some of his emails, and they found some things that proved that this was an issue and an ongoing issue, and that they needed to remove him from his thing. They took it extremely seriously, and within moments, he was fired and he was removed from the Methodist Church. He could no longer be a pastor at a United Methodist Church. They took it extremely serious. And again, that night I come home and I'm just thinking, where's the kumbaya? Where's the, where is all this stuff? Why am I doing this? I went from a world of comedy and making films and doing commercials, and now I feel like I'm on a CSI episode and it's just everything's all weird. And again, I heard nothing from God, nothing. And then I get a call again, and it's my district superintendent. And he said, one thing, the person that came to you, we can't have her working for the church anymore. We don't want to fire her. We need you to call her and get her to quit. And I thought, really? Me? You want me to do this? This is not in my anything, And I said, okay. And so the next day I called her into my office, and I didn't even know what to say because it just seemed, this was an awkward thing, and it just seemed like I just felt like I was out of my league, and I also felt like what I was doing, I didn't know if it was right or wrong or anything like that. Fortunately, she came in and she said that she wanted to quit before I even opened my mouth. She just wanted a clean slate. That was her goal in the beginning. She was ready to just leave, but she wanted to make sure that something had been done before she left. She was very, very brave about the whole thing. And we had this wonderful, wonderful conversation. And she told me that I was the only one that she felt that she could talk to. And I don't know why, but it was a wonderful conversation. And I felt good for the first time since I'd been there. I felt like I had done something. I felt they were going to hire a new pastor within a couple of days, and I thought that everything was okay. And then that night, I get a phone call, and it's my district superintendent. And he says, hey, just one more thing. And I've learned to fear that word. He said, that pastor that we removed and everything, he's hijacked the Facebook page. And we can't get him to relinquish the password and the rights and everything like that. We need you to call him and get him to remove his name and get control of the Facebook page. And I said, I don't even know how to run PowerPoint. You're doing this? I mean, where is the we are the world moment? Where is the, I want to be Mr. Rogers, not this thing, And stupidly I said, all right. And so I called him up and I said, hey, we need to get you off the Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. And the conversation started with, I am a pastor, but I'm also a man. And it proceeded to end with physical threats of violence, yelling, poundings of chest, and then eventually, at the very end of the conversation, he sent me the password, but not after he physically threatened me. A pastor. This guy is a pastor, and he is physically threatening me. I'm thinking at this point, church, you guys are freaking nuts. That night, I sat and I prayed to God. I just felt like I had been beaten up. I felt like a failure. I felt like this was not anything. I wanted to do weddings. I was ready to do funerals and all this kind of stuff and sit with people and baptize and do church stuff. I wanted to be the pastor. And instead, I was, learning technical stuff, getting yelled at, getting threatened, and all of this kind of stuff, having to do investigative work and all this stuff for the bishop, and just be in this weird situation of total anarchy. And I said, God, seriously, what do you want me to do here with this? Where am I supposed to go with this? Why are you putting me through this? And why am I not hearing you? And I get a phone call. It's about, by this time, it's about Thursday or Friday evening. And it's my district superintendent. And he says, hey, just one more thing. That pastor was really popular in the church. And word's kind of gotten out that you caused all this. And there's been some people that have said that if you come to their church, they're going to kill you. And there's a few of them that we might believe. There's one in particular that was really wanting to threaten violence. Threaten violence against me? Look at me. Am I a threat of any kind? At this time, I was riding a scooter to the church. How pathetic do I look? I had a helmet and a reflective coat. But they said that if you show up, they're going to kill you. And so we need you, for your own safety, to stay away from this church. The church that you were assigned to and hired to be an associate pastor for. And that night, I said, God, what the hell, God? I mean, what do you want me to do here? What is it? Honestly, what in the world are you doing here with this? Because if it's funny to you, it is not funny to me. Well, a couple weeks had passed. Things started to slow down. The guy that was at that church that they were really concerned with had a turnaround because his newlywed wife told him that on the day of their wedding, that pastor had made a pass at her. So he had a revelation. So it was safe for me to go back to church. So they had hired a new pastor. She came from another state. And she said, okay, we need to get this thing rolling again. What I want you to do, Trever, is I want you to do announcements. I want you to, that'll be your role on Sunday. I want you to go out and do announcements. So I did announcements, and I take myself wherever I go, and myself has humor and things like that. And there was a couple announcements that I said a couple of jokes with. They weren't anything weird or anything like that. They were just a couple of jokes, And that Monday, she calls me into her office, and she's sitting down, and she said, there is no place for humor in a church. Yeah. She said, I don't know who you were trying to impress or what you were trying to do, but you desecrated a holy space with your jokes. And at that time, I said, that's it. You can threaten my life, you can make me try to do other things, you can put me in front of college things, but if you take my sarcasm away, I am out. And I called the district superintendent and I said, I can't do this anymore. And he said, I thought you were going to call. He said, why don't you just take a break and we'll look for a new assignment for you. That was my start into ministry. That was my first from there, I went to a place in Tecumseh, actually, and that church embraced me. They treated me so wonderfully, and I got to do weddings, and I got to do funerals. not got to do funerals. I was able to be with people during times and everything like that, and I felt like that was when my pastoring truly started. But I got to admit, if I was a psalmist during that first ministry, I would have belted out some really good psalms there. And it would have been, why don't I hear from you? Where are you? Why are you letting my enemies prevail and say that they are victorious? Why am I not hearing from you? But you know what? As time has passed, it was a heck of a way to start a ministry. But as time has passed, I went from Tecumseh, I did Ord in western Nebraska, and I was called to start this church here. And I took my experience of knowing what it felt like to be bullied, knowing what it felt like to be an outcast, knowing what it felt like to have the church turn on you, knowing what it felt like to have to where you felt like you were all alone. I took all of that and I packed that up and I brought that to this church plant. And I thought to myself, no one else is going to think that in my church, because I know how it feels. And when I think about that, that's when I feel the presence of God. It was like, when my mom took me to kindergarten and she left, she was still there. She just knew I had to do some things. I had to learn some things on my own. And I feel like maybe God did that for me in my first year of ministry, where he stepped back and said, okay, this is going to be difficult, but you're going to learn some stuff from it, stuff that you're going to be able to use to truly help other people, to truly be a part of other people. This is what you're going to use. I'm not going to answer you in the way that you want me to answer you, but I will still be there. And in looking back, he was. He was. I didn't get the bolt of lightning. I didn't get that. But I got a person named Brian Olson that came in with the goodness of his heart for free and had an amazing conversation. And we started for every week we had coffee together until I went to Ord. We had a standing appointment at the Scooters on 56 and Highway 2. We met there like every Monday morning. And I made a very good friend out of that. I also saw God in between the times that the district superintendent was telling me the things that needed to be done, he was asking me how I was doing. And when I said, I can't take this anymore, he didn't ask questions. He just said, I understand, we will find something for you. And I also found it in a person that had been hurt and abused, that found that I was the only one that she could talk to. In that conversation, for one reason or another, I was picked to help this person. And looking back on it, I think we helped each other. Sometimes we don't see God in the big moments or in the big things with the big answers, but we can see it if we look toward each other. It's those moments of care that brought all of this stuff where it didn't become, by the time I started Neighbors Church, it did not become baggage, it became wisdom. And wisdom because of the people that were caring for me during that time, I brought them along too. And I remembered how it felt like when you feel like you're at your bottom, where somebody says, let me give you a hand. We have a God that doesn't work by themselves. We have a God that works through us to reach each other and to help each other when we're down. When we ever feel like we can't find God or that God is not answering us, that is a legitimate feeling. It is something that we are, because of the Bible, because of the Psalms, because of David, we are given permission to feel that. We are given permission to look to God and say, where are you? And we're also given the blessing of people in our lives that if we look closely, listen, remind us that God is here. Would you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, every one of us has stories where we just feel like we are knocked down. We feel like we are an outcast. We feel like we're a castaway, a criminal. Help us to understand that you do never leave us. You never leave us. Help us to understand the voices around us. Help us to understand how we are used to be those voices, to hear them and also to share them. In Jesus' name, Lord, we pray. Amen. The thing that I have learned in my ministry is every part of my ministry I'm grateful for, including that first year. I'm actually very, very grateful for, because it has taught me some things and it has brought me to where I am today. And I'm proud to say that I have met in ministry many people that are the value of what I hoped I'd see when I became a pastor. And I'm still influenced, not by the strength of the brawn or the people that fight for power. I'm still influenced by the people that were the Fred Rogerses of my life. Very much so. Very, very much so. I can promise you one thing. I have not done anything since I've been a pastor that will put me up on charges. What you see in me is who you get. And I am very, very committed to the role I have as a pastor, and that is doing God's work, being a spiritual leader, and also being a servant to the people. And I live by that. You can ask my wife or anyone else close to me, this is who I am. But I am grateful to be part of this church where we continue to hear that voice of God and continue to be there for one another. Let us continue, even through the darkest times. I know that we saw some things in the news yesterday that were shattering. I don't care who you vote for. If somebody is in their 20s and thinks a gun is the answer, it breaks my heart. It also breaks my heart, though, when I see people posting things saying, I saw a post, I just have to share it with you, where somebody said, God protected Trump. And my first thought was, what about the family that lost somebody that died there? How do they feel about that? Are they saying Psalm 13 right now? Are they wondering, did God protect Trump? Why didn't God protect him? It's just something to think about. We think about the people that are around us. Again, I don't care what your politics are. I hope that we pray for peace. I hope we pray for continued peace. I hope we can pray continually that we as a church still stand as a beacon for love. Loving God, loving ourselves, loving our neighbor.